Thank you, Chair. Honorable Prime Minister, Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips, Madam Phillips, the President and the office bearers of the Indian Commemoration Trust, my dear parents, my brothers and sisters of Guyana, friends from the media. Namaste. Good evening to all of you. First of all, my sincere apologies for coming in late for this event. I was at two events in Highbury and Palmyra, so coming from there, I got delayed. Please accept my sincere apologies for that. I am indeed very happy to join this event today to commemorate the arrival day, the 185th anniversary of the arrival day to Guyana. On behalf of the people, the government, and the High Commission of India, I extend my best wishes to all my Guyanese brothers and sisters living in Guyana and abroad, and all friends of Guyana, a very happy arrival day. I join all of you here today to pay my humble tributes and homage to those who came to Guyana and other Girmitia countries as we call them, be it Guyana, Suriname, Trinidad, Fiji, Mauritius, and South Africa, to name a few countries from India. And we commemorate this historic event while we recognize the journeys, the hardships, the travails and perseverance of those people. We should take lessons from that unique history of their hope, their determination, and maybe build a better future for ourselves as they did and for their descendants. These Indian diaspora's pioneering spirit, their determination, perseverance, and endurance under extremely harsh conditions really paved the way for these countries to move forward. Of course, while survival must have been their primary concern, they indeed strived hard and persevered to maintain their sense of origin, traditions, and culture. Their children, their grandchildren, and their subsequent generations will always take pride in this unique accomplishment, recognizing and appreciating the sacrifices and achievements they made on their behalf. Today, we also recognize the invaluable contributions they have made to the diverse cultural and economic mosaic and its development of Guyana. I sincerely believe that the histories of all nations contain certain such significant junctures which point to a reshaping and a transformation of their existing societies. And for Guyana, one of those moments was actually the arrival of the ship Whitby in Highbury on the 5th of May 1838. The chair was just mentioning that over 239,000 Indians landed from 1838 to 1917 in over 500 ships, and about 75,000 returned back to India on completion of their contracts. But the remainder who stayed back in Guyana, they chose to make Guyana their home, and they worked hard. And as you all know, many of them came from eastern Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and a smattering of them came from the southern Madras Presidency as we know it. When we look at this arrival, we are left to question as to why they left their country when their custom, the existing custom and tradition, forbade them from crossing the Kalapani, the black water as it was told then, on pain of social death and ostracization. Of course, when we dig deep into it, we know that the short answer to that question is it was a choice between life and death for many of them. One Guyanese scholar recently wrote, while indentured labor might seem might be seen as a transitory episode of human labor from slavery to the so-called modern free labor. The conditions that herded Indians into that option were indeed man-made. And by man-made, I mean the brutal colonization of India by the British Empire. The wages and conditions which were unacceptable to the then freed African slaves were used to entice most of the indentured labor from India, who themselves had suffered a lot under the British colonization, where famines were a common feature. Between 1838 and 1917, it is estimated that over 54 million Indians perished due to the famines in India. You can imagine how people were struggling in India, and when somebody went there and the agents who were almost always lying to them, told them that this was a land of gold, it was just a 7-day journey, you could make money and you could be prosperous. They took this opportunity and they were happy to get a job outside India. So British Guyana provided that opportunity for these people to come from India. Of course, their arrival brought new traditions, new languages, and new ways of thinking. And the preservation of these customs enabled these pioneers to cope with the arduous journey across the seas and the daily rigors associated with the harsh realities of life in the estates in British Guyana. As we can see, the Indian diaspora has prospered thanks to the hard work of their ancestors in Guyana, and they are now playing a very important and crucial role in the economic, political, and social development of the country. Once the indentured laborers completed their contracts, they took up their occupations, and given their proclivity and their talents, they excelled in almost all areas, including cultivation, cattle farming, shopkeeping, professional services, etc. It is indeed very heartwarming for me to note that the Indo-Guyanese still retain their culture, despite settling down in a far-off country for almost 2 centuries, which is almost like thousands of miles away. And the most beautiful aspect of the culture in Guyana is the strength of its resilience and adaptation. The music, the food, the language, the costumes, the rituals, the cuisine, all these are important aspects of that influence that still is retained. They say that you can take an Indian out of India, but you cannot take India out of an Indian. And the Indian diaspora in Guyana is a living example of this. Of course, the Indian enterprise diversified the local economy. Their descendants successfully ventured into various activities, as I spoke about, and they cultivated respectful relations with the other races in Guyana, and in so doing, fostered the development of a more cohesive nation. India is now very proud of the achievements of the Indo-Guyanese diaspora and their role in the development of Guyana. I am very happy to note that many luminaries from the Indian diaspora have held highly esteemed positions in Guyana in all spheres of life, be it political, cultural, sports, economic sectors, etc. And today, the significance, the importance of the Indian Arrival Day has already been honored by the Indian government way back in 2019 when they donated the Indian Arrival Monument in Palmyra. I consider it a matter of great honor and privilege for me that the government of India bestowed when they appointed me as the High Commissioner to serve in this wonderful nation. The priority of the current government of India, led by the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, is to build everlasting links with our Indian diaspora across the world. In fact, our Honorable Prime Minister had visited Guyana back in 1999-2000, and he fondly remembers the people and country of Guyana. In fact, an anecdote that I can recount here is when His Excellency the President of Guyana, Dr. Mohammad Irfan Ali, went to India in January as the chief guest for the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award ceremony, where he was bestowed with the highest honor for an Indian diaspora leader. The bilateral meeting between our Prime Minister and His Excellency the President of Guyana, they exchanged notes on the first visit of our Prime Minister to Guyana. And it was very heartwarming to see the warm feelings that my Prime Minister held for Guyana. And of course, President Irfan Ali then invited him, telling him that it's been 23 years that you have been to Guyana, you should come to Guyana. So we are working on that. So we hope to see our Prime Minister in the near future in Guyana. Of course, the Indian High Commission has been working very closely with the government of Guyana in various spheres, and as you all know, that we are working on various infrastructure projects, health projects, the road, the solar energy project, the hospital project. We are working, we just delivered a ferry for the convenience of the Region 1 of Guyana. We are working exclusively on various sectors, agriculture, healthcare, education. I'm very happy to inform you that over 50 to 60% of the gold scholarship, the scholars are studying in Indian universities. We are also working very assiduously in the healthcare sector, as I mentioned. If you all remember in 2021, when the whole world had shut down, and I'm using the words of His Excellency, the President of Guyana, he mentioned in his speech at the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman ceremony that when the whole world had shut down, closed itself, and in a way had agreed for a reverse globalization, it was only India which opened up and worked on the real terms of globalization by sending vaccines to across the world. And I remember Guyana was one of the first few countries to receive the vaccine, COVID vaccine. And I am very happy that the Honorable Prime Minister who is sitting here, we were there at the airport to receive the vaccines. And sir, you know, that was the moment when we really were under a lot of stress, a lot of distress back home in India also due to the epidemic. And India decided that we should share what we have. We should work in the principle of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, meaning the world is one family. And that is how India treats all its friendly countries, and especially Guyana, because we work on a principle of South-South cooperation. We work on a principle of our strategic relationship and partnership with Guyana. You know, that relationship that we have for over 2 centuries is something which we all cherish. And of course, my friends, all of you know that India has been awarding ICCR and ITEC scholarships for the use of the Guyanese youth. The Know India program has taken the Indian diaspora youth to India. The elderly have visited a lot of pilgrimage places. But I would like to emphasize here that we are very proud that many of our ITEC scholars have achieved a lot in their life. They are occupying the echelons of power. We are very happy that His Excellency the President of Guyana is one of those ITEC scholars who studied in 2001, 2002 in one of the universities. Madam Phillips is one of the beneficiaries of that scholarship. We are very happy that through them we are able to encourage other Guyanese to make use of our scholarship. And of course, on the cultural front, we have been working very assiduously to promote music, Indian dance, yoga, and other forms of art. We have been donating musical instruments to many mandirs and other socio-cultural organizations. I would also like to mention here that the work that the Indian High Commission is doing with the esteemed government of Guyana is not limited to government level. We are working also very closely with the private sector of Guyana. I am reminded here of another quote by the Indian Diaspora Council, where they speak about how our ancestors came here partially by choice. Many were forced, but resolved and persevered under very difficult and harrowing conditions. Friends, the triumph over obstacles and difficulties with the dreams and aspirations of a destiny which was intertwined by history and fate is something which we all have to cherish. I once again wish all of you a very happy arrival day. The massive projected transformation of Guyana in the next decade, my friends, I want to assure you that India will partner with Guyana as a strategic partner, and we wish to further strengthen our partnership. We wish to continue our support and encourage actively the long enduring and rich Indian traditions and culture which served our forefathers so well. I extend our congratulations to the government of Guyana, the people of Guyana, and I want to emphasize here that Guyana's enduring vitality is a reflection of its people, who have always been strong, energetic, progressive, and vibrant. We will continue to work assiduously with all the stakeholders to ensure that the Indo-Guyanese legacy continues to be a torchbearer for this country. I thank you. Long live India.